The sky turned an eerie shade of green as the first alien ships appeared over New York City. It was a quiet Tuesday morning, and most people were just starting their day. No one expected that this day would change the course of human history forever. Sarah Johnson, a young office worker, was walking to her job in Manhattan when she saw the massive ships. They looked like nothing she had ever seen before. Huge, dark shapes that blocked out the sun. She stopped in her tracks, her coffee cup falling from her hand and spilling onto the sidewalk. "What the hell are those?" a man next to her shouted, pointing at the sky. Before anyone could answer, a bright beam of light shot down from one of the ships. It hit a nearby skyscraper, and the building simply vanished. There was no explosion, no debris. It was just gone in an instant. Panic spread through the streets like wildfire. People started running in all directions, screaming and trying to find shelter. Sarah found herself being pushed along with the crowd, her heart pounding in her chest. Similar scenes were playing out all over the world. In London, Paris, Tokyo, and countless other cities, alien ships appeared and began their attack. The world's militaries scrambled to respond, but their weapons seemed useless against the advanced alien technology. In Washington, D.C., President Emily Carter sat in an emergency meeting with her top advisors. The room was tense, filled with the sounds of urgent phone calls and rapid typing on computers. "Madam President, we've lost contact with New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago," General Thompson reported, his face grim. "Our missiles aren't even scratching their ships." President Carter closed her eyes for a moment, trying to process the information. When she opened them, her gaze was steely. "We need to evacuate as many people as we can, and we need to find a way to fight back." As the day wore on, the situation grew more desperate. The aliens, who called themselves the Zorak, broadcast a message to every electronic device on Earth. Their leader, a tall, gray-skinned being with large black eyes, spoke in perfect English. "Humans of Earth," the alien said, its voice oddly melodious, "your planet is now under our control. Resist, and you will be destroyed." But something strange was happening. As reports came in from around the world, a pattern emerged. While the alien weapons were incredibly destructive against buildings and infrastructure, they seemed to have little effect on humans themselves. Dr. Aisha Patel, a brilliant physicist working at CERN, was one of the first to notice this anomaly. She had been in the lab when the attack began, and she watched in amazement as her colleagues were hit by the alien energy beams, only to stand up, completely unharmed. "It's impossible," she muttered to herself, running test after test. But the results were clear. Something about human biology made them resistant to the alien weapons. As word of this discovery spread, it gave people hope. In New York, Sarah Johnson found herself leading a group of survivors through the ruins of the city. They had been hit by the alien weapons multiple times, but each time they got back up. "We can fight back," Sarah told her group, her voice filled with determination. "They can't hurt us." Around the world, humans began to organize. They couldn't match the aliens' technology, but their immunity to the Zorak weapons gave them an advantage. In every city and every country, people started to resist. The Zorak were taken by surprise. They had conquered countless worlds before, but they had never encountered a species that was immune to their weapons. For the first time in their long history of conquest, they faced real opposition. As the first day of the invasion came to an end, humanity found itself in a unique position. They were outgunned and outmatched in terms of technology, but they had an unexpected edge. The war for Earth was just beginning, and against all odds, humans had a fighting chance. President Carter addressed the nation that night, her voice broadcast to every radio and working TV. "My fellow Americans and citizens of the world," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "Today, we face the greatest threat in human history, but we have discovered something extraordinary about ourselves. We are stronger than we knew. We are resilient in ways we never imagined. And together, we will fight back. We will reclaim our world. As night fell, the green sky was lit up by the glow of alien ships and burning cities. But in the darkness, hope began to grow. Humanity was down, but not out. The real battle was just beginning. As the sun rose on the second day of the alien invasion, the world was a very different place. Cities lay in ruins, but amid the destruction, a spark of hope had ignited. Humans were discovering their unexpected resistance to the alien weapons. In a makeshift lab in the basement of a half-destroyed hospital in London, Dr. James Chen worked tirelessly. He had been on duty when the attack began and had witnessed firsthand the strange immunity humans seemed to possess. "It doesn't make any sense," he muttered, peering into a microscope. He had been examining blood samples from people who had been hit by the alien weapons. "There's something different about our cells, but what?" Across the Atlantic, in what remained of the CDC headquarters in Atlanta, a team of scientists led by Dr. Maria Rodriguez was asking the same questions. They had set up emergency generators and were running every test they could think of. "Look at this," Dr. Rodriguez said, pointing to a computer screen. "The alien energy seems to bounce off human cells. It's like we have some kind of natural force field." Meanwhile, on the front lines of the resistance, people were putting their newfound immunity to the test. In Paris, a group led by former soldier Jean Dubois was launching guerrilla attacks on the alien positions. "Remember," Jean told his team as they prepared to strike, "they can destroy buildings, but they can't hurt us directly. Use that to your advantage." The group moved through the rubble-strewn streets, getting close to an alien patrol. When the aliens fired their weapons, the humans felt a warm tingle but nothing more. They fought back with whatever weapons they could find, from guns to improvised explosives. Back in the United States, President Carter was meeting with her advisors again. The room was tense, but there was an undercurrent of excitement. "What's the latest?" she asked, looking at General Thompson. "It's confirmed, Madam President," he replied. "Reports from all over the world say the same thing. Their weapons can't hurt us. We don't know why, but it's giving us a fighting chance." The president nodded. "And what about our weapons? Any luck penetrating their defenses?" A scientist stepped forward, Dr. Sarah Goldstein from MIT. "We're making progress, Madam President. We've been studying the debris from their ships. Their technology is advanced, but not unbeatable. We think we can adapt some of our weapons to be effective against them." As humans began to understand their advantage, the aliens were growing frustrated. In the main Zorak ship hovering over New York, the alien leader, Zorkath, was in a heated discussion with his science officer. "How is this possible?" Zorkath demanded. "We've conquered 100 worlds and never encountered a species immune to our weapons." The science officer, Velnar, looked nervous. "We're still analyzing the data, Supreme Leader. There's something unique about human biology. Their cellular structure, their DNA. It's like nothing we've seen before." Zorkath's eyes narrowed. "Find a way to overcome this. We cannot let these primitives defeat us." As the day progressed, more and more humans joined the resistance. In Tokyo, a group of teenagers used their immunity to rescue people trapped in collapsed buildings. In Rio de Janeiro, dock workers turned their tools into weapons, fighting back against alien patrols. Dr. Chen in London had a breakthrough late in the afternoon. He rushed to his communication equipment, sending out a message to other scientists around the world. "It's in our mitochondria," he exclaimed. "Something about the energy production in our cells deflects their weapons. We need to study this further, but it could be the key to fighting back." The news spread quickly, giving people even more hope. Humanity had always thought of itself as a young, relatively weak species in the grand scheme of the universe. But now, they were discovering a strength they never knew they had. As night fell on the second day of the invasion, the tide was beginning to turn. Humans were organizing, fighting back, and most importantly, understanding their unique advantage. In New York, Sarah Johnson and her group had linked up with military personnel. They were planning a major counterattack for the next day. "We're no longer just running and hiding," Sarah told the group. "Tomorrow, we start taking our world back." Around the world, similar scenes were playing out. Humanity was battered but unbroken. They had survived the initial onslaught, and now they were ready to fight. The war for Earth was far from over, but for the first time since the invasion began, victory seemed possible. As millions of people went to sleep that night, in basements, in shelters, in the remains of their homes, they did so with a new sense of purpose. Tomorrow would bring more battles, more challenges, but also more discoveries. Humanity was just beginning to understand its true potential. The third day of the alien invasion dawned with a new sense of purpose for humanity. Armed with the knowledge of their immunity and a growing understanding of the alien technology, people around the world prepared to fight back. In New York City, Sarah Johnson stood with a group of volunteers outside the remains of the Empire State Building. They were a mix of civilians and military personnel, all united in their determination to reclaim their city. "Remember," Sarah said, her voice steady, "we can't be hurt by their weapons, but we still need to be careful. Our goal is to capture one of their smaller ships. We need to understand their technology better." As the group moved through the streets, they saw the destruction the aliens had caused. But they also saw signs of hope, people emerging from hiding, ready to join the fight. Meanwhile, in a secret underground facility in the Nevada desert, Dr. Maria Rodriguez was working with a team of scientists and engineers. They had been analyzing the alien technology nonstop. "We've made a breakthrough," Dr. Rodriguez announced, her eyes bright with excitement. "We found a way to disrupt their energy shields. It's not perfect, but it's a start." She turned to a group of soldiers waiting nearby. "We've modified your weapons. They should be effective against the aliens now. But remember, this is still experimental." Across the Atlantic, in London, Dr. James Chen was leading another important mission. He and a team of volunteers were approaching a landed alien ship. Their goal was to capture a live alien for study. "Stay close," Dr. Chen whispered as they crept towards the ship. "We need to be quick and quiet." As they got closer, an alien emerged from the ship. It was tall and gray, with large black eyes. Before it could react, Dr. Chen's team surrounded it. The alien tried to use its weapon, but as expected, it had no effect on the humans. "We've got one," Dr. Chen said into his radio, "bringing it in for study." In Washington, D.C., President Carter was coordinating the global counterattack. She had been in constant communication with leaders from around the world. "The time to act is now," she said during a video conference. "We have the advantage of immunity, and now we have weapons that can hurt them. Let's take back our planet." As the day progressed, battles erupted in cities around the world. In Paris, Jean Dubois led a daring raid on an alien command post. In Tokyo, a group of engineers used modified electromagnetic pulse devices to disable alien vehicles. The aliens, caught off guard by the sudden and effective resistance, began to retreat to their ships. Zor Kath, the alien leader, was furious. "How is this possible?" he raged at his commanders. These primitives were supposed to be easy to conquer. Velnar, the science officer, looked worried. "Supreme Leader, we've underestimated them. Their immunity to our weapons is not their only strength. They're incredibly adaptable and resourceful." Back in New York, Sarah's team had succeeded in their mission. They had captured a small alien scout ship and were now working to understand its controls. "Look at this," one of the team members said, pointing to a holographic display. "It's a map of their fleet positions. We can use this to coordinate our attacks." As night fell, the news was spreading quickly. Humans had won their first major victories against the invaders. In every city, on every continent, people celebrated cautiously, knowing the war was far from over, but feeling hope for the first time. Dr. Rodriguez's modified weapons were proving effective. Reports were coming in from around the world of damaged and destroyed alien ships. The Zorak, who had never faced serious resistance before, were in disarray. In London, Dr. Chen was making progress with the captured alien. Using a combination of sign language and simple drawings, he was beginning to communicate with it. "They're not evil," he reported to his colleagues. "They're scared and confused. They've never encountered a species like us before." As the third day of the invasion came to a close, humanity had turned the tide. They had gone from helpless victims to formidable opponents in just 72 hours. President Carter addressed the world again, her voice filled with determination. "We have shown the Zorak, and ourselves, what humanity is capable of. We are stronger than we ever knew. This is just the beginning. Tomorrow, we continue our fight. We will not rest until Earth is free." Around the world, people cheered. The alien ships that had seemed so terrifying just days ago now looked vulnerable. Humanity had found its strength, and they were ready to use it. As people prepared for another day of battle, there was a sense of unity that had never existed before. Borders and old conflicts were forgotten. In the face of this cosmic threat, all of humanity stood as one. The war was far from over, but for the first time, victory seemed possible. The humans were no longer just fighting for survival. They were fighting to reclaim their world. As the fourth day of the invasion dawned, both humans and aliens were adapting to the new reality of the war. The initial shock had worn off, and now both sides were settling in for a longer conflict. In the main Zorak ship hovering over what was left of New York City, Zorkath paced nervously. The supreme leader of the alien invasion force was not used to failure. "We need a new strategy," he growled to his advisors. "These humans are more troublesome than we expected." Velnar, the chief science officer, stepped forward. "Supreme Leader, I have an idea. If we can't hurt them directly with our weapons, perhaps we can attack them in other ways." Meanwhile, on the ground, Sarah Johnson and her team were celebrating their recent victories. They had successfully driven the aliens out of Lower Manhattan and were preparing to push them back further. "Great job, everyone," Sarah said to her team. "But stay alert. The aliens won't give up easily." Her words proved prophetic. As the morning progressed, reports started coming in from around the world of new alien tactics. In London, Dr. James Chen was studying the captured alien when alarms started blaring. He rushed outside to see a strange mist descending from the alien ships. "Everyone, inside," he shouted, realizing the danger. "They're trying to poison our air." The aliens had indeed shifted their strategy. Unable to harm humans directly, they were now targeting Earth's environment. In addition to the poison gas, they were using massive heat rays to boil oceans and burn crops. Back in Washington, D.C., President Carter was in an emergency meeting with her crisis team. "They're trying to make Earth uninhabitable for us," General Thompson explained grimly. "If we can't breathe the air or grow food, our immunity won't matter." Dr. Maria Rodriguez, who had been flown in from Nevada, spoke up. "We need to focus on bringing down their ships. If we can do that, we can stop these attacks." Around the world, humans scrambled to adapt to this new threat. In Tokyo, engineers worked frantically to create massive air purifiers. In Brazil, scientists rushed to preserve plant and animal specimens, preparing for the worst. The aliens weren't just attacking physically, though. They had also started a psychological warfare campaign. Using advanced technology, they projected massive holograms in the sky, showing scenes of destruction and defeat. "Do not resist," a booming voice echoed across cities worldwide. "Surrender now, and you may live as our servants." But the aliens had underestimated human resilience once again. Instead of breaking their spirit, these tactics only made humans more determined to fight back. In Paris, Jean Dubois rallied his resistance group. "They think they can scare us with big pictures in the sky," he said with a laugh. "Let's show them what real courage looks like." His team launched a daring raid on an alien communications center, disrupting their ability to project the holograms. In New York, Sarah's team faced a new challenge. The aliens had released robotic drones that, while not directly harmful to humans, were destroying vital infrastructure. "We need to adapt too," Sarah told her team. "Jenkins, work on hacking those drones. Martinez, find us some EMP devices. We'll turn their toys against them." As the day wore on, it became clear that this new phase of the war would be even more challenging than the first. Humans couldn't rely solely on their immunity anymore. They needed to be smarter, more innovative, and more united than ever before. Dr. Chen, working with his reluctant alien captive, made a surprising discovery. "They're not used to prolonged conflicts," he reported to the global science team. "Their species always either wins quickly or retreats. They don't have the stamina for a long war." This information gave humanity a new hope. If they could hold out long enough, perhaps the aliens would give up. As night fell on the fourth day of the invasion, the situation was tense but not hopeless. Humans had suffered setbacks, but they had also shown incredible adaptability. President Carter addressed the world once again. "They thought they could break us by changing tactics," she said, her voice firm. "But they've only shown us how desperate they are. We will overcome these new challenges, just as we've overcome everything else they've thrown at us. Tomorrow, we fight on." Across the globe, humans prepared for another day of battle. They sealed their homes against the poisoned air, worked on countermeasures for the aliens' environmental attacks, and continued to fight back wherever they could. The war had entered a new phase, but humanity's resolve remained unbroken. The aliens may have adapted, but so had Earth's defenders. The battle for the planet raged on, with neither side willing to give up. As the fifth day of the alien invasion began, something remarkable was happening. The world, once divided by borders, politics, and old grudges, was coming together like never before. In a secure underground bunker in Geneva, Switzerland, world leaders gathered for an emergency global summit. President Carter of the United States stood at the podium, addressing the room. "We face the greatest threat in human history," she said, her voice echoing through the chamber. "But we also have the greatest opportunity. Today, we must set aside our differences and stand united against this cosmic threat." One by one, leaders from every nation stood up, pledging their support. Old enemies shook hands, rival countries became allies, all in the face of the alien menace. Meanwhile, in laboratories and research centers around the world, scientists were working together in an unprecedented global effort. Dr. James Chen from London was video conferencing with Dr. Maria Rodriguez in Nevada and a team of scientists from Beijing, Moscow, and New Delhi. "We've made a breakthrough," Dr. Rodriguez announced excitedly. "By combining our research on human immunity with the alien technology we've captured, we think we can create a weapon that will be devastating to the Zorak." In New York, Sarah Johnson was leading a diverse team of fighters from around the world. There were soldiers from the US, Russia, and China fighting side by side with resistance fighters from Europe, Africa, and South America. "Look at us," Sarah said, smiling at her team. "A week ago, some of our countries were on the brink of war with each other. Now, we're humanity's last line of defense." The team was preparing for a major offensive against the alien stronghold in Central Park. As they checked their gear, a young soldier from Iran turned to his American counterpart. "I never thought I'd be fighting alongside an American," he said, "but I'm glad you're here." The American soldier nodded. "Same here, brother. Let's show these aliens what Earth can do when we work together." As the human counteroffensive gained momentum, the aliens found themselves increasingly on the defensive. Zork, Kaf, the alien leader, was struggling to understand this unexpected turn of events. How can they be so united? He asked Velnar, his science officer. "Our data showed their species was constantly at war with itself." Velnar looked thoughtful. "It seems, Supreme Leader, that we have accidentally given them a common enemy. In trying to conquer them, we have united them." On the International Space Station, astronauts from different countries worked tirelessly to convert the station into a defense platform. Using a combination of human and reverse-engineered alien technology, they were creating a shield to protect Earth from orbital bombardment. It's ironic, a Russian cosmonaut said to his American colleague as they worked, "We've dreamed of becoming a spacefaring civilization for so long. Now that dream is coming true, but not in the way we expected." Back on Earth, the global unity was leading to rapid advancements in technology and strategy. In a joint African-European initiative, a network of advanced early warning systems was being set up across the planet. In South America, a coalition of countries was working on a massive project to purify the air and water that the aliens had poisoned. Even in the world of politics, change was happening fast. The United Nations, once often gridlocked by disagreements, was now making decisions with unprecedented speed and unity. "We are no longer citizens of individual nations," the UN Secretary-General declared in a global broadcast. "Today, we are all citizens of Earth." As night fell on the 5th day of the invasion, humanity had reason to hope. The aliens' attempts to divide and conquer had backfired spectacularly. Instead of falling apart under pressure, the human race had come together like never before. In New York, Sarah's team successfully pushed the aliens out of Central Park. As they raised the United Nations flag over the reclaimed territory, cheers erupted from a crowd of diverse fighters. On the main alien ship, Zorkath was beginning to realize the magnitude of his mistake. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "we have underestimated these humans." Velnar nodded solemnly. "They are stronger united than they ever were divided. We may need to reconsider our invasion plans." As the world prepared for another day of battle, there was a new sense of optimism. Humanity had found its greatest strength not in weapons or technology, but in unity. The war was far from over, but for the first time, Earth was fighting back as one planet, one species, one united force. The aliens had come to conquer a divided world. Instead, they had created a united one. And this united Earth was proving to be a formidable opponent indeed. As the 6th day of the alien invasion dawned, there was a sense that a turning point had been reached. Humanity, united as never before, was ready to launch its biggest counterattack yet. In the skies above New York City, Sarah Johnson stood in the cockpit of a captured alien scout ship. She had spent the last 24 hours learning to fly it, guided by the knowledge they had gleaned from the captured alien and human intuition. "All teams, report in," Sarah said into the communication system. Voices from around the world responded, each ready for their part in the plan. Meanwhile, in a secret bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Maria Rodriguez and Dr. James Chen were putting the finishing touches on their secret weapon. It was a device that combined human DNA with alien technology, designed to turn the Zorak's own weapons against them. "Do you think it will work?" Dr. Chen asked, his voice tinged with both hope and worry. Dr. Rodriguez nodded firmly. "It has to. The fate of our world depends on it." In Washington, D.C., President Carter stood in the war room, surrounded by leaders from every nation. The tension in the air was palpable as they watched screens showing battle preparations from around the globe. "Today, we take back our planet," President Carter said, her voice steady and determined. "May we be worthy of the trust humanity has placed in us." As the sun rose higher in the sky, the final battle began. Sarah led a fleet of captured and modified alien ships, launching a surprise attack on the main Zorak vessel hovering over New York. At the same time, ground forces in every major city launched coordinated assaults on alien positions. In London, Jean Dubois led a team armed with the new hybrid weapons. As they fired at the alien forces, their weapons emitted a strange, pulsing energy. The aliens, for the first time, seemed to be in pain. "It's working," Jean shouted, his voice filled with excitement. "Push forward." On the main alien ship, Zorkath was in a panic. Nothing in his centuries of conquest had prepared him for this. "How are they doing this?" he demanded, watching as his forces fell back under the human assault. "How are they using our own technology against us?" Velnar, the science officer, looked at his leader with a mix of fear and awe. They've adapted, Supreme Leader, in a way we never thought possible. They've combined their biology with our technology. As the battle raged on, the humans' advantage became clear. The aliens, so dependent on their advanced weapons, were at a loss against enemies who were immune to those weapons and now wielded similar technology. In the skies above Earth, the International Space Station, now converted into a battle platform, engaged the alien fleet. Astronauts from a dozen countries worked together, using their newfound unity and shared purpose to devastating effect. Back on the ground, Sarah's team had fought their way into the heart of the main alien ship. They were closing in on the control room, where they hoped to end this war once and for all. Remember, Sarah told her team as they prepared for the final push, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every human on Earth and for all the generations to come. With a fierce cry, they burst into the control room. Zorkath and his commanders turned in shock, facing the determined humans. It's over, Sarah said, her voice firm. Your invasion has failed. Leave our planet, or face the consequences. For a moment, there was silence. Then, to everyone's surprise, Zorkath began to laugh. It was a strange, alien sound, but the emotion behind it was clear: defeat. In all our conquests, Zorkath said, we have never encountered a species like yours. You have beaten us, not just with strength, but with unity and adaptability we could never have foreseen. As word of the aliens' surrender spread, cheers erupted around the world. In every city, humans emerged from hiding, embracing each other in joy and relief. At the United Nations headquarters, now partially rebuilt, world leaders gathered to address the planet. President Carter stood at the podium, her face tired but triumphant. Today, we have won more than a war, she said. We have discovered the true strength of humanity. In our darkest hour, we came together. We proved that our differences are nothing compared to what unites us. As the sun set on the 6th day of the invasion, Earth celebrated. The alien ships were leaving, their invasion a failure. But they left behind a humanity forever changed, united, stronger, and ready to take its place among the stars. The war was over. And for humanity, a new chapter was just beginning. 1 year had passed since the day the Zorak ships left Earth's orbit. The planet was a very different place now, changed forever by the week-long alien invasion that had nearly ended human civilization. Sarah Johnson stood atop the rebuilt Empire State Building, looking out over New York City. The skyline was a mix of familiar structures and alien technology, a visible reminder of how much the world had changed. It's amazing how far we've come, she said to Dr. James Chen, who stood beside her. Dr. Chen nodded, his eyes reflecting the gleam of a passing anti-gravity vehicle. And to think, it all started with our unique immunity to their weapons. In Washington, D.C., President Carter was addressing a special session of the United Nations. Representatives from every nation on Earth were present, along with a surprising addition, a small delegation of Zorak. 1 year ago, we faced extinction, President Carter said, her voice carrying to every corner of the globe via advanced communication tech. Today, we stand at the brink of a new era for humanity. She gestured to the alien delegates. Our former enemies have become our teachers, sharing knowledge that has propelled us forward by centuries. Indeed, in the year since the invasion, Earth had seen advancements that once seemed like science fiction. Diseases that had plagued humanity for millennia were now easily curable. Clean, unlimited energy-powered cities across the globe. The first human colonies on Mars were already under construction. But the changes weren't just technological. The unity forged in the heat of invasion had lasted, reshaping global politics and culture. In a lab in London, Dr. Maria Rodriguez was explaining humanity's unique biology to a group of Zorak scientists. We still don't fully understand why we were immune to your weapons, she said, but it seems to be linked to the unusual resilience of our mitochondrial DNA. One of the Zorak, still marveling at human biology, spoke up. In all our travels, we've never encountered a species quite like yours. Your adaptability is remarkable. Across the world, the scars of the invasion were healing. Alien technology, once used to destroy, was now being used to rebuild. In the Sahara, vast tracts of desert were being transformed into lush farmland. In the oceans, floating cities were being constructed, easing population pressures on land. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Some humans were wary of the rapid changes, fearful of losing what made them human. Others worried about the remaining Zorak, despite their apparent change of heart. Jen Dubois, now a member of Earth's new United Defense Force, voiced these concerns at a global security meeting. "We must remain vigilant," he warned. "We've made great strides, but we can't forget the lesson of the invasion. We must be prepared for anything the universe might throw at us." His words were taken seriously. Even as humanity reached for the stars, they kept a watchful eye on the skies. In orbit above Earth, the International Space Station had grown into a sprawling complex, part research station, part defensive platform. It was here that Sarah found herself 6 months after the victory celebration in New York. As she looked down at the blue marble of Earth, a Zorak scientist floated up beside her. "Your world is beautiful," the alien said, a note of regret in its voice. "We were fools to try to conquer it." Sarah nodded, her expression thoughtful. The invasion was terrible, but in a way, it was also a gift. It united us, showed us what we're capable of when we work together. As they spoke, an alert chimed. A deep space probe had picked up a signal, signs of another alien civilization far out in the galaxy. Sarah and the Zorak scientist exchanged glances. Once, such a discovery would have been met with fear. Now, it was seen as an opportunity. "Shall we go say hello?" Sarah asked, a smile playing on her lips. As the sun set on another day in humanity's new era, the people of Earth looked to the future with hope and determination. They had faced the ultimate test and emerged stronger. Now, united and armed with advanced technology and unbreakable spirit, they were ready to take their place among the stars. The invasion had tried to end humanity. Instead, it had launched them into a future brighter than they had ever imagined. As the stars twinkled in the darkening sky, they seemed to beckon, full of promise and adventure. Humanity's greatest chapter was just beginning.